Hey, welcome in, teachers. I am Jerome, and I run the Editable activity store on Teachers Pay Teachers. And I wanted to kind of give an overview of how to use my game shows that I've created for PowerPoint. And so, first thing I'll say is, while my game shows are compatible on Mac and PC, you have to use the Microsoft PowerPoint app for them to work properly. So if transitions aren't working or sounds aren't working and things like that, you might be using Keynote and that's not compatible. But let's jump in. I'll start with School Feud here. And first thing I'll say is look at this Enable Content button. You should see that when you first unzip these to your desktop. So we want to enable that, and what that does is it allows the PowerPoint app to enable the team scoring, basically. So the one drawback, if there is one, to these is that and while they work on Mac and PC, they do require macros, so there's an outside chance your school or something may block that on your Macs. Hard to say, but anyway, let's jump into this. So we've got School Feud running, and let's say I want to set this up, and I'm just kind of wing my questions on the fly here. So let's take a quick look at our full board here. So obviously we've got answers here. We've got 8, and then we have a question down here. So say I'm just starting out, and my question is, what are the colors of a rainbow? And then I could put in here, I'll just replace this, just replace this text, and I'll triple click to highlight the whole string of text here at once. Double clicking will just do answer. So if I triple click, then it'll get all of it. So I can do red, orange, yellow, green, and so on. And so red, orange, ROYGBIV. So this last answer is, I'll just put them out here. Violet, blue, indigo. I think that's how you spell that. I have to admit, I myself am not a teacher. My wife is a teacher, so I just kind of go with what she says. Anyway, so for this round, you can see we only have 7 answers. So for this, I'm just going to delete answer number 8 and box number 8 over here. And so we've got our incorrect squares that'll come down one at a time up here. We've got our our answer covers, here, and we have a question down here, and we have however many points you want this round to be worth. 50 points, 150. This is just more of a reference point later. So when you go and fill in the team scoring, you could say, oh yeah, team blue, they got 150 points for this first round. And we would just say round 1 instead of round X. Yeah, and so if we were to go to slideshow and just view from this current slide, so we can look at what we've got here. So we can go question 1. So the answer, red, would be the first one, and you can fill out the rest. But if you notice, number 8 is gone right here because we deleted it. And every round is the same. So if you have a 5-question round, you just delete 6, 7, and 8 answers, and then 6, 7, and 8 of these answer boxes. And when the round is over, if somebody gets something wrong, you can just click the little X up here, and when the round is over, go back to scoreboard, update the team name, and we'll just go back to round 1. Oh, and obviously I forgot, show question. So what are the colors of the rainbow? So we would click show question first, hide question, and then you just have to have some notes here on, you know, answer 1, answer 2, answer 3, that kind of thing. So let me close out of this. And so yeah, that's how you'd progress each round, and kind of how it works. And the preview next would just basically be going to the next round. You can go to scoreboard, you can click that, and then click round 2 at the bottom. Does the same thing, however it works for you. So I'm going to close this. And so the next one I'm going to go over is Jeopardy. And again, we've got our enabled content. Be sure to click that. So to start out, here are today's categories. So basically just fill in these categories. Again, I triple click. So you can have, you know, food, I guess put it in caps like the show. Food, you know, minerals, you know, art. And so you fill out the rest of these categories, and you will have to replicate them here. I think I put food, what did I put in? Minerals, art. So you'll have your categories set up here, and set them up here at the top. And you'll notice in the zip for this, there's a bunch of different files. So the version that I'm using currently is, if you see here at the top, 6 category, 3 teams. So I've got 6 categories and then 3 team scoring. And so you'll see 6 category, 5 team scoring, 4 category, 4 team scoring. So when you first open it up, just select the one that is applicable to you. If you want a shorter game, choose 4 categories. If you want to split your class up into just 2 teams, you could do 4 category, 2 teams, that kind of thing. And so for Jeopardy, once you have your categories set, we'll just scroll on down here. So you just type in your questions. So what was, I don't remember what my first one was. Oh yeah, food. So you could do, just highlight all of them, you know, just say, whoops, what is your favorite food? Or, you know, whatever the question is going to be. And I have a reference here for $100. It's just a reminder, again, coming back to the scoring, so you're like, how much is this round? And there you go. We've also, most of my game shows, I have got a correct, wrong, cheer, mute buttons down here, and anytime you see a house, it just goes back to the scoreboard here. And after you click each one of these, they will turn to gray or a darker color, basically, till you know you clicked on it once. But when you close this out, close the file and save it, when you come back in, each one of these will be lit up brand new yellow again. So replayability is still there. Then I also have, don't want to forget about Final Jeopardy. That's the link here. And the Final Jeopardy is all the way at the bottom of this list. And so you put in your Final Jeopardy question here. And then anytime you see answer arrows, that'll take you to the next slide, which shows the answer. And we also have a timer. So the timer basically goes kind of like the game show. The outer 2 squares will disappear sequentially until it all goes away. Timer's up. So if we were to do a quick run through the scoreboard do a quick run through of categories. So you just kind of go through with your students, and I'm just hitting the arrow key to advance the round. And so $100 question. Question here, come to the answer. What is your favorite food? So you could have your question be pizza, or what have you. Obviously, horrible example. Hopefully you won't judge me on that. But if we go back home, we see this is kind of a grayed out yellow. And if you want to, and this operation is the same on all my game shows, if you want to update the team scoring, you click on the actual team name, and it's going to say type the updated team score below. So if that was worth $100, they went from 0 to 100. If team 2 is they're already at 300, let's say, but they just got a $400 question, you click team 2, and you want to type 700. Oops, like that. Because they were at 300, now they got 400, now they're at 700. And you can, if you want, type in a $sign in there first, just to kind of keep it cool. Students might appreciate that. And yeah, we can go to Found Jeopardy and kind of start our timer here. And I'm a little impatient, so there's the answer. Go to the scoreboard, and then we just update the score as needed. And yeah, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of how this whole Jeopardy works. It's also very similar for the deal no deal. Very similar in how you set up your questions and that kind of thing. Yeah. Anyway, I hope this helps clear up some questions. I'll move on. Let's go Millionaire Classroom next. So Millionaire Classroom, just like Wants to Be a Millionaire, we've got some lifelines, and of course we've got our money amounts. And so this game is played a little differently in just a couple areas than the real show. So while you can click on these lifelines, they just turn gray. Nothing really happens. And each round has their own set of lifelines. So if you are a generous teacher and you let the classes use each lifeline for each question, that's fine. Or you have the option if the first question they use ask a friend and 50-50, you can go to round 2 and immediately click these in the gray amount so they can see for question 2 they only have a lifeline left. Other than that, the game is played pretty much the same. Flip through the next round, just click the next button here, and you'll see at the bottom you've got room to type your question. What is 2 plus 2? And so I've got pre-filled answers here. And if you notice, and I'll go to the next slide. So right now, the correct answer is B. The next slide, the correct answer is C. And the next slide, correct answer is A. And go on down through all of them. They kind of changed the jumble them. I tried to make them as random as I could. And that matters so that, students don't memorize, each placement of questions that kind of bump around. But maybe the second time you play the game, a student may remember, oh, the first question was B. So what you can do, we want to keep this as the correct answer, because when it gets clicked on, it's going to flip to blue, and these others are going to flip to red, showing wrong answer. So it'd be easier to just kind of drag them around if you wanted to. Just kind of use PowerPoint to help you kind of line them up, pretty straight. And get them back to kind of how they were before. And so now this could be, if you, as an example, wanted A to be the right answer, we can flip them around, and so when A gets clicked on, it's going to flip to green, and these other ones will flip to red. And you just kind of mix it up just so students don't memorize any patterns with answers, that kind of thing that would spoil the fun. And if you notice, each slide, the highlighted money amount goes up as the game continues. So let's do, I'll show you a quick slide here, what happens when you click the wrong answer. So all these would do red, and then this one green. Now there's unfortunately no way to automate that in PowerPoint. It's a manual kind of operation. But like I said, there's so many questions, and I kind of randomized them enough that I don't think you would need to really move any of them around. Just fill in your question, fill in your answer, and then you know, maybe have a sheet next to you with, you know, the answers in order, because they're not going to see right answer, wrong answer. They'll see, you know, 2 plus 2, you know, maybe say this is 4, obviously, right? So let's undo that. Let's do 4, so it's not in yellow. Might give away our answer. And then these could be, you know, 5, and then 8 and 1, or, you know, what have you. So that's what they'll end up seeing, but you have to know on a little cheat sheet, post-it note or whatever, that A is the right answer. Maybe not for 2 plus 2, you probably know it already, but you get the idea. Yeah, and so this is kind of geared toward the whole class playing as a whole, and maybe you know, you pick a student for each question, that kind of thing, or yeah, something along those lines, or a group, you know, small group, that kind of stuff. Anyway, I'll move on to the next game show. Deal, no deal. Like I mentioned before, first we'll do enable content. Like I mentioned before, it's like Jeopardy in a lot of ways. We've got our scoreboard, we've got our team scoring, dollar amount briefcases here, and you fill in your question here and the answer here, and we've got our $100 money amount reminders. We've got our home button to go back to this main scoreboard. You click the team name to update scoring, and you've got just a ton of questions to go through. You could, if you wanted to save time, you could be like, well, I don't want that many questions in this game, so I'm just gonna oh, I made it a static image, never mind, forget what I said. I guess you could just do that if you wanted to make it a shorter game. You know, kids, I think, would get the idea, especially after playing it. You click on it, that's available, there's nothing to click on, so shorten the game a little bit. Yeah, they all have you know, working sounds and that kind of thing as well. And like I said, if the sounds don't work, you might be using Keynote or Preview app on the Mac or something. Yeah, just make sure you use PowerPoint. We'll save that. Next up is Wheel of Fortune. So I've got an example slide here. So this is kind of what do you want to look at, how you want around to look when you're all done. So I've got my favorite category, before and after, and soup of the Daytona. Got a link to the game board still, got our nifty sound effects, and we know what round it is. So here's what it's going to look like when you first start, and it can be kind of daunting, but just kind of keep it simple. Put in your category, you know, name, and then we could just put you know, pick a name. I'll just double click to overwrite these dashes with real letters. Tom. So let's say that's all we want. So we want to delete all the rest of these other squares, and rather than clicking and deleting each one, a million times, we can just click and drag over these boxes. And make sure you don't go too far. Just over the first row. And you'll see them all get highlighted here. Then you just hit the delete button on your keyboard. That row goes away. So you can kind of do a quick delete in chunks. It saves you lots of time. Now, we'll see the answer here, but when we go and play it, these squares will be blank. And so you can keep track of what letters have been guessed up here. These will just go away when you click on them for the round to kind of, keep things a little organized. We already said that letter and all that. So if we were to take a quick peek at this, here we go. And let's say somebody picked M. Hey, look at that. M. And somebody picked D. Nope, sorry. Somebody picked T. And so on. Was Tom, not Tim. Yeah, so kind of keep things a little organized. And again, kind of take some notes as to what each answer is on the side while you're presenting. Will go a long ways, I'm sure. And of course, we have a link to the game board. And so the game board itself, you'll see we've got our team scoring here off to the right again. Just click the team to update to the latest, most updated score, not the amount that they just won, but their new total. We got links to each rounds and our spin amount. And I put this in here just as a quick reminder of what you got. You could kind of maybe have a lot of things going on in the classroom all at once. You just spun, somebody or two people ask questions, and you're like, what did we just spin? And while we have the wheel here, when you return to the game board, it just goes back to start and you can't see what was previously spun. So when we do spin, we'll want to go ahead and write in the amount of the spin. And so yeah, you just kind of go here. We can go to round 2. Whoops, my bad. We went to round 1. And you can see as you go back and forth between spinning, the letters are still, still gone, that have been guessed. So, yeah. And so there's a few rounds here. If you want to add rounds, I wouldn't really recommend it because this is it's already got 5 rounds in place. You could, I guess, delete or ignore this one. If you wanted to do 4 rounds, you could just hit delete and there wouldn't be a link to the last round. If you want to do that, that's fine. And with this, kind of like Jeopardy, you're going to see a lot of different files. So Wheel of Fortune 3 teams, Wheel of Fortune 9 teams, Wheel of Fortune 2 teams, and you'll just see the teams here on the right. And so you can have as many or a few groups of students or individuals as you need. And yeah, so that's kind of how that setup goes. The big takeaway is using your drag and drop to delete multiple squares at once. And yeah, I think really once you get the concept down, the hardest part will be figuring out what you want your questions or your answers to be here in categories. But I'll move on to the next game. Let's see, Press Your Luck. This one is the most complex and finicky of all of them, but it's also probably one of the funnest. So here's our main game board, and you'll see this character. You can just ignore him, leave him there. When you go and play the game, he'll go away until you hit the 1 button, then he'll drive on by. So we've got our questions here off to the side, and kind of like I mentioned in Wheel of Fortune earlier, if you don't want to do round 5, you could just go and delete these, but I would just kind of ignore them. It's up to you. And I've got up to 5 teams here on to the right, and so part of the complexity, and this is one of those things where you can kind of take it as far as you want to go. Maybe if you have older students, you can use all of the functions here. If you have younger students, maybe you can just ignore the forced spins, for example, where if a team has 5 spins, they're doing great, and they have 1 spin left, they don't want to spin it and risk losing everything, they can force a spin onto another team of their choice. And so you would click on 4 spins And, you know, maybe team 2 would have 1 force spin when they play. So it's kind of a strategy there. And we can keep track of our spins and money amounts here for each team. So let's just do a quick run through. So I'll click the big button in the middle to start this cursor, and kind of where it lands is where it lands. Now, it's not perfect. Unfortunately, I can't make it perfect in PowerPoint. It does have its limitations. However, if it lands kind of in between two, you can either respin, or if it's one slightly inside of another square, that's supposed to be the correct, you know, landing spot, if you will. So it went on a whammy. I don't think that anything happens on the first spin. Maybe it does, but nobody has any money, so I don't know that it really matters. Anyway, do it again. So you can kind of see this is move one space either direction. So a team, if they landed right here, they could either choose $1,500 and another spin, or $2,000 HD TV. Their call. Whichever it is. Let's say they choose the TV. That's great. $2,000. I'll put a little dollar sign in. So team 1 just got that, and I believe the turn is over. The next team would be up. Push the button, and push the button again to stop it. $500. Good. $500 for team 2, and so on. So, you know, if you were to land on a whammy like this guy here, you just hit the whammy button, and there's our cool sports car whammy dude. Yeah, and so that's kind of how the team scoring works. And like I said, if you want to use the 4 spins, you can. If you want to ignore it, you know, it's really up to you. What really matters is the money amount and the spins, and how they earn the spins and money amount are the questions over here. So just like the other game shows that I have, there's a ton of slides. You put your, you know, your questions and answers in, and they'll populate here, and you can, I kind of put a spin amount up here. So some are worth 1 spin, 2 spins, and so on, more for difficult questions basically. So that can be an indicator of a hard question. If it's worth 2 spins or something, make it a little tougher. And then of course our little home icon means go back home to the scoreboard. Yeah, so let's go back here and take a look at our things. You can of course change this you know, to 3 spins if you want. Everything's customizable. I would leave this one as is on all these slides, just so they kind of keep things organized and you know what to do. Yeah, so you put in your question here, and then bump over to answer. If they're right, they can spin and get, you know, and then get some money. I think that just about does it. For this game, Press Your Luck, I have 2 versions of the game. They operate the exact same way. The other game just has different whammy icons and different, you know, whammy stuff. So another way, like if your students really like it, and you play this one a couple times, you can do the other one, and it's a little fresher for them. And moving on to the last one, categories. We'll enable our content. So this one operates a lot like Wheel of Fortune. So we've got different rounds, we've got our team scoring, and we can, you know, do our spins. And so this one I have not all 26 letters, if you notice. I just have kind of the more common letters. In the zip file you'll see some other ones in there with less rounds, and I have one that has all 26 letters of the alphabet. You know, really your call as to which one you want to use. But the setup for this is pretty straightforward. You got your round 1 questions, you know, things found in your yard would be maybe the first one. And so they spin, and they get the letter, I don't even know, R, for rake. So they get a point if nobody else guessed it, or you could do anytime somebody guesses something with an R, they get a point. Anyway, the rules are kind of lenient up to you, and again, kind of like Wheel of Fortune, we've got our little current letter just as a reminder. If you want it, again, it's optional if you want to use that during the game. And yeah, so I really hope that helps you get these game shows set up, and good luck, have fun, thanks.